In this lecture, we're going to learn about Declytpe auto. And this is a mechanism we have to avoid the duplication of our expression we had in the last lecture, where we were using Declytpe as a trailing return type. This is duplicated here. The logic here to compute the maximum is duplicated, and sometimes we don't really want this. So we have a syntax to avoid this, and all you have to do is say Declytpe auto in the place of your return type here in our function template. And at the moment we do this, our function is going to work, and it is going to use the return type like we really expect. Okay, this is going to work. You see, the code is relatively shorter than what we had in the last lecture, and it is going to avoid the repetition that we did. But this is limited in that it's not going to allow you to split the code into function declaration and definition. And again, the reason is now the Declytpe expression that was computing the maximum is gone, and the compiler can't see it before it really sees the function definition. For this reason, we can't use this technique to split our code into function declaration and function definition. Now that you know this, let's head over to Visual Studio Code and actually play with us. Okay, here we are in our working folder. The current project is Declytpe auto here. We're going to grab our template files and put them in place. And we are going to open this in Visual Studio Code pretty quick by dragging and dropping in here. And we're going to open our main CPP file, close the left pane here. We don't need it anymore. And we're going to clean up a little bit. Remember, in the last lecture, we had a function template like this, which was doing return type deduction through Declytpe used as a trailing return type. But the problem we had was that the logic here to compute the maximum is repeated twice. And this can make your code ugly, and sometimes this is really not desirable. And if you don't want this, C++ provides another syntax you can use to really shorten this. What you can do is take out this trailing return type here altogether. You're going to take it out. And then all you're going to say is Declytpe auto, just using the syntax like this and put auto within the parentheses. Now you're going to see that this is going to compile and run. Okay, let's try and actually compile this because we have squiggly lines there. So what is the problem here? The problem is that we have a typo here. We didn't say Declytpe, we said Declytpe. Let's take out the Y in here. And this should now compile. You see that Visual Studio Code is going to take this as a valid C++ syntax, and we can try and compile now to really make sure that this is going to work. Build finished successfully. We can use this function now. So this function is going to do return type deduction like we want. So for example, if we have two variables, int a, or let's say x, for example, whatever, we can say 7 in here, and we can say double y and put in 45.9, for example. And now if we try to compute the maximum, let's do that and say result. We're going to say maximum, and we're going to pass in x and y here and print the maximum. Let's print that out and say result and print the size of the maximum variable, the result variable, I should say. We're going to see what is deduced. Okay, we have this in place. Now we can build our program. The build is going to go through, and I want you to guess what is going to be printed as the maximum. That's not really hard to guess. That's going to be 45.9 here, but look at the type that is deduced for the return type here. Guess what you're going to get, and then please run this. So we're going to run rooster, and we're going to see that the size for that is 8. And this is deduced to be a double because that's the largest of these two guys. And this is using the regular return type deduction rules that we have seen before. So the largest of the types involved in our expression here is going to be the type deduced by the compiler. This is going to shorten your syntax we had in the last lecture, but this has the limitation that we are no longer able to split our code into function definition and function declaration. If you want to use this, your entire definition has to show up before the main function, or to be exact, before the point where you call the maximum function here. So this is going to be our definition. And on top, we're going to shrink this to a declaration, remove the body and say this is the declaration. Now, if we try to compile this code, guess what? We're going to get a hard compiler error. We're going to say world finished with errors, and it is going to say use of Declytpe auto maximum this before the deduction of auto. And what this really means is that the compiler can't do deduction with only the declaration that we have here. It has to see the entire function definition. And if you want this to work, you're going to have to take your entire definition and move that before the point where you use this function call here. And we're going to just do that. We're going to put in our entire definition. We're going to build again, and you're going to see that the code is going to build just fine here. And if we run, we're going to see what we expect. The maximum is whatever we expect here, 45.9. This is really all I set out to share with you in this lecture. I hope you found it interesting. We are going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to see how default arguments work with function templates. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.